What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Roll Pod Preview Edition. Alabama getting set to return to action against LSU in Bryant-Denny Stadium at another night game in Bryant-Denny Stadium for the Crimson Tide. Sitting at 7-1, coming off the bye week. Mike, Alex, how are we doing?
Good. I'm a little distracted. I've got like 24 ladybugs on my window over here right now. I guess it's that time of year. I don't know. I need it. To get back in game mode. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, we are squarely back into game mode, and Alabama, like I said, playing LSU at home. LSU with an interim coach. I want to start there. I feel like the minute someone gets an interim coach, it's like, oh, this team's going to play more enthused. It's this, it's that. Is there anything beyond that? Or are you guys kind of just this game? The game's a game. It's the matchup's the matchup. It is what it is.
Yeah, I doubt the numbers back that up about an interim coach. And there's the saying, like, do you get the dead cat bounce? Like, is there a little bit of that? I think at the end of the day, it's Alabama LSU, and that still means enough that on the Alabama side, I don't think they're going to take for granted LSU because they know what that rivalry means and what it's been in the past. And I think for LSU, it's a chance to prove themselves. But, it all goes out the window about 60 seconds into the game. And it's about who can respond when there are swings in momentum.
Right. I think it can maybe be helpful if the team comes out fast and gets a little bit of confidence. But that would be true even if Brian Kelly was still the coach. Like, if you score the first touchdown in Tuscaloosa, like, you're going to get a jolt of confidence from that. I don't know what just happened to my picture, but I got a jolt of lag for a second. So I don't know. Like, I think to me, the bigger concern if I was Alabama would be the change at offensive coordinator and how that changes their play calling tendencies. Because I don't know if LSU wasn't playing for Brian Kelly. I don't know if that was the issue with them. I don't know if there's a bunch of players who quit on the coach. They were playing some pretty close games. I mean, the A&M games where the floor kind of fell out. But to me, it's the play calling change. And you have a bunch of tape on Joe Sloan, but how does Alex Atkins call the plays? Yes, they might be the same plays, but in which situations are plays called? And you kind of have to anticipate. Now, there is a little bit of a background. I guess he worked at UT Martin. Jason Simpson. Kane Womack worked at UT Martin, so there's a little bit of knowledge there, but you don't really know what it's going to look like on Saturday. And LSU is talented. Like, they've been talented all year. That hasn't changed. Garrett Nussmeier is still somehow among the better quarterbacks in this draft. So you still have to worry about just that raw talent showing up. And yes, maybe they do get a little bit more confidence and energy from an interim coach, but it's the play calling that I would be more concerned about.
Yeah, it's a good – I know we usually kind of start with offense, but that's a good way to start with the defense. I think Kane Womack called he said it was one of the best skill position groups they're going to go against. Deontay Lawson kind of carried the same thoughts in his conference today on Tuesday. Do you agree with that? I mean, Mike, I feel like you kind of just said you agree with that in the sense. Alex, I was kind of running through the roster or the matchups in my head, but Alex, I'm kind of
they're maybe the most compelling matchup wise because of what they bring at tight end and what they have at receiver, the different body types. I don't know that they're the best because they just frankly haven't put it on the field, and they don't have much of a running game. I mean, it's that old saying, styles make fights. And what does Alabama struggle with? They struggle with a mobile quarterback who can create explosive plays. Is that Garrett Nussmeier? No, it's not. Can you run a little bit? Sure, but he's not. He doesn't worry you. So, I see what he's saying, and I think in some ways I think it's legit. But I think because of what Alabama does well and conversely what they don't do well, I think there are probably other teams that hell, even South Carolina presented problems that are maybe more unique to what Alabama struggles with than what LSU on paper can do. But they are talented. There's no doubt about that.
I didn't know if you were looking at getting in any numbers or usually.
No, I was looking at Alex Atkins. He was the coordinator for Florida State in 2023, which that was a good Florida State team. And, obviously had the Jordan Travis injury that year. So not as if he's completely unknown. Maybe that's a good and a bad thing. Like there is some background on how he calls plays. I would be interested to see if Alabama's looking at Florida State, the last couple of years to see how he's called plays at Florida State. But, he's also experienced. He's done the job before. So it's not like this is his first game calling plays in college football. So I don't know, to me, that's the more interesting or the more dangerous part of it than Frank Wilson versus Brian Kelly.
Yeah. Sticking with defense, I guess it's kind of an update just to talk about injuries here. Quay Russo, obviously the big one, seems to be continuing to trend in a positive way. I don't know if there's anything more you wanted to add there, but it just kind of, I think we talked about it last show is like, why rush him? Is that kind of the same mindset you guys are carrying right now?
Yeah, I don't think it's changed. I think Kane saying sooner than later is just another thing you can sort of read the tea leaves on. But again, if you clear the LSU hurdle, is it worth rushing him back to Oklahoma?
Right. Because
I would argue no, based on how Yanze Pierre is playing.
Right.
And frankly, based on the matchup too, because Quay's kind of maybe help you a little bit more in the running game. Maybe. I don't see the upside because Alabama does have a little bit of a margin for error too.
Right. And if you don't play him against Oklahoma, then you have Eastern Illinois as your bye week, so to speak, where you can give Russo an extra week and then, maybe you have him for Auburn. But I mean, at the end of the day, whether he's playing or not, this defense, player in and out. So, how many snaps does he play, even if he is playing? How many snaps does Pierre play? How many snaps does Justin Hill play? How many snaps does Noah Carter play? For all of them, probably.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a carousel no matter what is kind of the theme of this defense.
Yeah. You kind of talked about it there. I think it was Alex. The name of the game to beat Alabama is the running quarterback, but you brought up the tight end, and Kane Womack brought up the tight end as well. That kind of screams not a great matchup, so to speak. And and Deontay Lawson's playing better. I think Justin Jefferson's playing better. I think Mekhi Green's getting more comfortable as well. But is that kind of maybe a circled matchup, you think, on the defensive side?
Yeah, but I think it's more the safeties than the linebackers because I think if they're beating you with throwing the ball with tight end in the flat, I think you live with that. I think it's limiting the explosives and can Bray Hubbard, Keon Sabb, Zay Mincy, whoever's back there, keep that from happening. I think at the end of the day, this is sort of a game that's more about Alabama than it is about LSU. And did they make the most of the bye week? Was it not just a chance to, get your feet under you after a really rough stretch, but can you improve upon some things, which is, those little inconsistencies on defense, since we're talking about that specifically, which is, up front, fitting running lanes, being gap sound, tackling, those things that we've seen them do at a high level and things we've seen them do at a really poor level too. So can they carry that through and improve that and be a better team as they move down the stretch? Because look, they're looking like a playoff team. I don't know if we sit here and say they got a championship team yet. That's going to take some steps on defense and on offense too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what exactly scares you about LSU's offense. I mean, obviously Aaron Anderson is known around here. I think his speed would be one thing. We just saw, Nick Harbor in that play.
One of Nick Saban's favorite, right? Aaron Anderson.
That's right. Barryon Brown. Did Barryon Brown, for some reason I can't get that out clearly. Did he play against Alabama 2023, Kentucky? What did he do? Not that it really matters.
Nobody did anything on Kentucky's team.
Yeah. I mean, it's Kentucky. He had 2 catches for 3 yards against Alabama. That was Saban's defense. But he's still a pretty good player. I feel like Barron Brown. Trades Green, Bauer, Sharp, or tight end. Like, obviously, the LSU running game is probably better than what it's been the last couple of years, but I don't know if it scares you.
No.
Look, I'm not saying that they can make plays against you. I think they can, but it's like South Carolina. It's like, can they do it enough?
Mm-hmm.
And even if LSU makes a few plays on you and you're sitting there in the second half and it's a tight game, same thing as the last game holds true. Like, I go to the bathroom and I think to myself, Alabama's probably going to make more plays than the other team down the stretch. And that was true the last game. And I think it would be true in this game too. Now, whether or not it happens in the bathroom or not, I don't know. But that's just where that thought came to me in South Carolina.
I don't have the numbers to back it up. I should have brought them. But does it feel like to you guys that the rushing game is kind of down across the SEC? I don't know if
there's no superstar running back, is there?
Right. It's just like
Kywin Lacey.
Somebody posted like the rushing ranks of
SEC, and they're all
Ahmad Hardy was for a second,
and like Jaden Knott, you could argue is one of the.
Yeah,
I don't want to sound like an idiot because Alabama's playing in 2 weeks, but he was supposed to be one of the bigger pickups, and I haven't really heard his name much. It's just something I kind of noticed.
I mean, it might be true. At the same time, like, just because everybody else sucks doesn't mean you're allowed to suck either.
Yeah, right.
Right. You know, just
more than fair. More than fair.
Arkansas is actually the best rushing team in the SEC.
Because it's supplemented by the quarterback. I do think there is something big picture to where have all the stud running backs gone. That was a thing for a really long time. Are they playing receiver now more? Because that's where the money is, maybe. But yeah, or maybe it's just an off year. Maybe EJ Crowell comes in next year and flips it all on its head. But that's a podcast for another day.
I mean, Justice Haynes, who was not very productive at Alabama last year, is potentially your best running
laid up right now, though.
Him and Jeremiah Love, I would say, it's probably
he's averaging over 7 yards a carry. I mean, Deshaun Bishop came into Alabama and averaged, like 10 yards a carry a couple weeks ago. He's averaging almost 7 yards a carry this season as well. So Bo Jackson at Ohio State is having a great year as well. So, I mean, there's good backs. Obviously, Jeremiah Love, like you said. It's just not quite as much in the SEC. And that could just be, just bad luck or just,
if you asked me what happens faster, an Alabama opponent rushes for 100 yards or an Alabama running back rushes for 100 yards, taking the opponent right now.
I don't think anybody's arguing with that one. Before we flip to offense, anything else kind of big picture on defense you're circling? It seems like for Mike, there's shouldn't be a lot to worry about, but again, they can make explosive plays and
I got nothing.
And we want to get a little in the weeds. I'm a little curious what those handful of Dre Kirkpatrick snaps, where they go. Does Ivan Taylor coming out of the bye week, is he somebody you kind of throw out there and see if he can make a few plays? I think it's, again, very much in the weeds, but something that has crossed my mind because he's not playing this week. I don't know that he's playing much more for the foreseeable future after the arrest.
Maybe Ivan Taylor. I think in all likelihood, it's probably just you're sticking with the three that you have. And, probably a little bit more to Zay Mincy. But Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard are still your guys. And that means playing 3 or 4 more snaps a game. I think they're probably fine.
Yes, especially now that they're in the home stretch. You should, theoretically, your rotation should constrict over time.
I don't think that's happening.
It was 23 in the Florida State game and 22 in South Carolina for players that was in defense.
And there were 20 in the first series.
There was 20 in the first quarter, or even the first series of the South Carolina game. I think they ended with 26. I'd have to go back and check, but
20 in the first series. Could you name them?
It's like it's hockey. It's line changes.
Yeah, right. It's just nuts. Flipping over to offense, I guess and correct me if I'm wrong here, kind of the biggest story is Jam Miller is 100%. Whether that, again, we beat the run game and we talk about it, but All right, no, it's not the biggest story.
Look, he might be 100%, but I'm looking to see who has the percentage of snaps at running back in the
That was going to kind of be my next.
story.
That was going to be my next kind of question. It's like
I think Jam was 100% against South Carolina, and Daniel Hill outsnapped him. And Ryan Grubb is ruthless as far as like, if you're not producing, you're not going to play, or I'm going to play somebody else. And he's seems to be in that I'm going to turn over every rock mindset. And maybe that means more Daniel Hill in this game. Maybe it means they go back to Kevin Riley. I don't know. But I'm not seeing it from Jam. And how much time is there left to see it? Like, I don't know. I think you know what you have in him. And I think that's – all right, we lost Alex.
Yeah, what is there? And I'm back.
Yeah.
No idea why it's happening.
You know what you're getting. I think there's just a ceiling on it. And maybe you get some of those productive 6, 7, 8 yard runs in the fourth quarter when you're trying to kill the clock, and that helps. But he's not going to make people miss. And it's just the running game after game has not been there. So why not try something different?
Yep, I agree. I couldn't say it much better. I do wonder, is it too late to trot out a guy you haven't really leaned on, whether that's Dre Washington, whether that's AKD, or whether that's even Richard Young? Because honestly, you're at a point where you've kind of seen what you've seen from these guys. Right. I think more than likely it's lean on Kevin Riley a little bit more, but we'll see. They've got to figure out a way to get something more, because you can't get much less.
That's what, and you got to think that the whole Dre Washington, it's probably more of a blocking issue, maybe, and they're just not comfortable. And then AK Deer is probably a similar sense and just blocking, which makes more sense. He's the freshman, so that lines up. Let's talk about Ty. Obviously, in the Heisman race and the conversation, would say he probably hasn't had that Heisman game yet. You could argue, again, we talked about it.
Georgia kind of was, but it's it's how close you are to the finish line that it shines through more.
Yeah. Alex has a great feature up on Ty and kind of his long journey from high school ranks to Alabama again to being this in the Heisman race. Alex, and kind of give you the floor, just kind of let your thoughts go a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's a really interesting guy in terms of, you don't see very many guys wait. And I'm not going to sit here and moralize about guys who don't. But the fact that he's you begin with, he almost goes to Tennessee. If not for Jeremy Pruitt getting fired, Jason Simpson is the quarterback coach, and Ty Simpson is his quarterback. Talk about a road not traveled. And then you get to Alabama, and you're really swimming. And he was pretty candid about the struggles of going up against Nick Saban's defense and kind of what that did to him mentally, because it's really hard. You're going from playing really low-level football in Tennessee to all of a sudden you're going against Will Anderson and Kool-Aid McKinstry and Brian Battle and all these guys, and you suck. And not only that, the practice is designed for you to suck, because as Ty told me, like, it's skewed for the defense, and if the offense wins, you're going to have a miserable day because Saban is going to be unhappy. And he's like, look, it just made me wonder and question to myself, can I do this? And I talked to Derek Dooley, and he kind of, went through that about how that's the good and bad of going through the system at Alabama, and that there were a lot of times where Ty thought he was the better quarterback, better than Jalen Milroe, but the consistency wasn't there enough. And it went back to, can you just play your brand of football? And in some ways, Kalen DeBoer comes in at exactly the right time, because he says, we're not going to script practice. I'm not going to lean offense or defense. Just go out there and play. Just play football. And lo and behold, he can make some plays because he is a former 5-star. He's got that moxie when it comes to, scrambling, making something out of nothing. And it started to show up, and he started to believe. But it was interesting. It was kind of the first time I heard him say at that Florida State game, him sort of going back to old Ty a little bit. And really, he said, it wasn't the worst game, but he admitted, like, I was questioning myself. Like, can I really do this? And it works against Ty because he's sort of wired to accept nothing less than perfection. Like, he's obsessive about everything, and when it's not perfect, he can kind of go into a dark place. So he had to come out of that Florida State game and just say, forget everything, forget everybody. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm just going to play football. And that cut loose version of Ty Simpson is about as good as it gets, because he can go out there and he can fit passes into, minuscule windows. And that's sort of how he's gotten to this point now. And it's not been easy. It's not a finished product by any means. And he talked about that. Like, there's still things they've got to do at a much higher level. But I think you got to appreciate a kid who went through a lot and questioned a lot and has come out on the other side of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting note about the Nick Saban-led practices. I mean, I should have known that, but how it was obviously skewed for the defense. And if you did have a good day on offense, he was, the whole facility was probably going to be in a bad mood. So that's definitely an interesting part of it.
And they thought he was the guy when Bryce left. It was the expectation, really, like, Ty's going to do this, and he just didn't show up in big moments because I think he was too in his own head, and he figured out a way around that. And it's good for Alabama. It's good for Ty that he's done that, because there's a whole alternate universe where I don't know what scenario he's in right now, because at the end of the day, he's a fourth-year player. He's got one more year of eligibility, but it's looking like he might not need it.
To the point that, again, I don't think he necessarily had a terrible game against South Carolina by any means, but he was a little off. We talked about it. What are you maybe kind of hoping to see against the LSU? If you could maybe pinpoint a couple things from Ty and maybe the offense as a whole. Mike, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the accuracy needs to get better from where it was at South Carolina. The deep ball is a part of that, but not all of it. I don't know if you want to call the crosser to Jeremy Bernard a deep ball, but that was off.
Deep-ish.
Yeah, it was, intermediate. But the deep ball accuracy, I think they hit even just one of those, maybe two of them in that game. And I don't know if it's as close as it was. So, 1 of 10, I think we talked about in a previous show, 1 of 10 this season on passes of 30 air yards or more. And that's pretty far down the list as far as quarterbacks right now in the country. So I asked Ty about it today, and he, there's basically said there's different factors that go into it, but he needs to get better at that. So that's, I think, one area that is needed. The pass protection in terms of not taking as many sacks. Again, that's the offensive line. It's Ty. It's hard to always pin it down to one thing, but his sack numbers are high. I'm just looking at, the top 10 quarterbacks and passer rating right now. Like, he has 15 sacks. There's only one quarterback with more than that in the top. Or sorry, 2 quarterbacks with more than that in the top 10. So, the sack percentage is high. I think you need to try to cut that down. You've had a couple strip sacks, I think 3 in a row now, 3 games, right? And some of that, I think, is on Ty in terms of trying to do too much. So there's different things. But, it's the offensive line, it's the receivers. There's the running game would help Ty, I think, a little bit. That can get going. So, again, it's hard to kind of pin it down to one thing. And if Ty hits a few deep balls in this game, but he throws a pick, then, the goalposts kind of shift in terms of what the goals are to fix.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think the deep ball is kind of the missing link for this offense right now. And you'd think with the number of receivers they have who can get downfield in a hurry, that would be more of a point of production, but it's just been off. Like, he made a really nice throw at the end of that game, and the defender made a better play on it. So maybe, you take a little bit good from that, but they got to figure out a way. Because, again, we talked about this on the last podcast. Like, you think about defending all points of the field. Well, defense doesn't really have to defend the run. And they're not really scared about over the top right now. So you're really, you're good sideline to sideline, but there's a small space of field. So you've got to figure out a way. And I think it's just continuing to take shots there and chip away until you get it and at least have the threat, even if it's not the most productive part of your offense.
Right. And just to compare kind of what, if you want to call it the Mona Lisa of the DeBoer Grubb offense, is probably 2023 Washington. So this year of passes of 30 yards more in the air, Ty has a passer rating of 55, which is 114th in the country. 2 years ago, Michael Penix of Washington, passer rating of 305, eighth in the country.
That team was just
he was 26 of 49 on passes of 30 or more yards in the air, which I believe the 49 attempts is probably the most in the country. Over 1,000 yards on those passes, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception of 30 air yards or more. So there's definitely a gap between.
I'm very curious. Can you pull up how much of that was play action? Is that even because the thing that Washington had, while they did not have the most productive run game in the country, they had a productive back in Dylan Johnson. You had to account for him.
Yep.
And I think in some ways, Alabama's no threat in play action right now. And that's where you're going to have the most success typically in deep balls is when you can do that.
It was about half of it. He was 13 of 23 on air yards or more of 30 with play action on the play. So 13 of 23, 616 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 338 passer rating. But he was, I'd say, pretty equal in terms of passes of no play action, which was Penix. He's 13 of 26, 485, 6 touchdowns, 275. So pretty equal.
Slightly more with play action.
Right.
I can still see some of those throws he made. I think it was Texas was in the semifinal that they played. He made a couple. And then Ryan Grubb was on with Sheridan with Gruden, and Gruden asked him about Penix, and he was like, there was a couple times where like, did you see that correctly? Or did you just sling it? So like you talk about Grubb talking about how much he loves Ty. I mean, him and Penix just, they had it rolling together in Washington. But this is Alabama podcast.
And I will say,
yeah,
I mean, that wasn't even the best in the country. Speaking of LSU, holy crap. Jaden Daniels 2 years ago, passes of 30 air yards or more, 20 of 32 for 853 yards, 15 touchdowns, no interceptions, 441 passer rating.
And then led every rushing stat for the QBs.
Right. Yeah, God, he was so good, man.
5 million.
Yes,
he was special.
Yeah. How those LSU teams did not play in Atlanta. I guess they did his first year there because Jalen Carter just bear hugged him in that one moment. But how they didn't win more with that offense.
You talk like some LSU fans. He may have had the worst LSU defenses in the last, like, along with him. There's just not good at all. Speaking of the passing game in Alabama, Latsier Brooks is back. I know that's not an update. We talked about it last podcast. Latsier Brooks is back. Isaiah Horton expected to be back. That was kind of a minor injury. It's just more pick your poison. It's just like, hey, and I want to bring back up the deep ball because I remember us talking about it kind of off season as well. And I believe Kalen DeBoer talked about it as like, we're okay with the dinks and dunks because we have the athletes to make the plays. Is that kind of still the same mindset? I know you guys talk about you got to get this deep ball going, but it's still it's working, and a lot of it's on Ty, like you said, but it's
working. You're just playing a game where you have very little margin.
Right.
And that's why they end up they have these lulls, is because like that's the key for explosive plays, is because it can make up for when you're shitty.
Right.
Because one play, boom, you scored.
Right.
And that's what this offense was like last year, beginning of last year, was incredible at. Like they just killed you with explosives. They had nothing in between. And now it's gone in reverse. And that's why, like, you talking about the receivers, I almost wonder if there's something to be gained by force feeding Ryan Williams. And I know that triggers a lot of people, but he's your best downfield guy. And if you can get him going where he can stretch the field vertically, I think he's your best bet for doing that. I think you just say before you go into every game the next month, we're taking 4 shots to number 2. Every quarter, we're going to him at least once until you break through. Because, like, I love Jeremy Bernard. He's a guy who's going to kill you with yards after catch. He's a guy who's going to kill you running over the middle. Brooks is sort of that guy too, but Ryan's different, man. And if you're looking for a way to unlock that, he's your clearest option, in my opinion.
What if so you're swallowing the potential of Ty throwing a pick?
Yeah. I've gone on this podcast and say
Alex
I
has
don't
been
care
consistent
about one pick. I don't care.
But to speak to your story, I think Ty is so good at avoiding picks that it might, to your point, be to his detriment. That
one of the points, I don't know if I made it clearly enough, but I remember talking to his quarterback coach, Thomas Morris, about it, because we were talking about the deep ball and all that stuff, and he's very confident that it's going to go through. He's biased, obviously. But it's like the one thing they were looking for is what happens when shit hits the fan. And that's why I keep going back to that pick he threw earlier in the season and the way he bounced back from it.
The only one he's thrown.
And at the very end of the story, I'm talking about South Carolina, and nothing was working. Like nothing in that game was working. Ty said it felt like the Twilight Zone. Things they do well, like that pass to Rico Scott, easy, hits it all the time, they miss it. Germ, easy, they miss it. The fumble, it's an easy blitz pickup, they miss it. And it didn't get to him. Like that's the maturity that you see, is that when stuff does go wrong now, I think, I don't know, that he's built up enough armor over the last few years and he's realized that it's okay when it goes wrong. So I'm taking what you're saying, Mike, and that it's a little scary with Ty because he does know how big moments are, but I think he's gone through enough to realize he doesn't need to curl up in the fetal position if he makes a mistake.
But I would say, to get back to Brett's question, I think teams will start to take away some of those shorter passes from you, and then it's like you got to kind of stay a step ahead, which I think Grubb and DeBoer are obviously very good at. But I think it'll just catch up to you a little bit if you keep doing the same thing. And that's kind of where some of that creative play calling comes in, and obviously the play action and the running game. So if you're just we talked about in the last podcast, I think that's why you've seen Jeremy Bernard in terms of like the jet sweeps and stuff. Teams are keying on that because they're like, okay, this was the wrinkle you could hit us with to supplement your lack of a running game. Well, you can't have that anymore. What are you going to do in response to that?
I think the crispy package might have run out as well.
The hot and ready sign went out.
Yeah.
Don't put Ionata in there. That's the wrinkle, because everybody's like, oh, it's happening.
Speaking of the offensive line.
Yeah, sorry.
I really respect knowing Joseph Ionata, though. Damn. You're a year ahead on that one, but good research, good homework.
Part of the same class as Casey Poe.
And we lost Alex again. There you are. You're back.
As soon as I said Casey Poe, he went blurry.
Yeah.
Speaking of the offensive line, and I know it's just like it's again the same conversation over and over, but it's like similar to like the defense. Do you need to rein in these rotations at some point, or is it, hey, this is what we're going to do? We've stayed consistent in being not consistent. As like, is that just going to be the name of the game the rest of the year? And I know we've talked about it over and over. So if we want to move past it, we can. But it's just like at some point, I think you've got to find 5 or 6 guys, and maybe they have. It's really not as many rotations as right.
I still don't know if they will. I don't know if they have to or not, but I don't think that they will.
Yeah. I mean, do you give Jaden Roberts a little bit more run after what you saw at South Carolina? Maybe. But if Geno's healthy, you're probably playing him some. I still think you continue to put Michael Carroll in the game because I don't know how comfortable you are with Wilkin Formby until you see it week after week after week. So I think it's what it is for the foreseeable future, because the only ones with absolute certainty are out there: Parker Brailsford, Kane Proctor. That's it.
100%. Kind of to put a bow on the LSU matchup. If you were, you're Ryan Grubb, what is 1 or 2 things you're screaming to your unit, in those offensive meetings for these, not scream, whatever, however he kind of goes about
probably
it.
Screaming.
Yeah, he's probably screaming. He is
beating, what are they beating into this offensive unit? And then we'll talk about the defense just to wrap it up for the football, but just what's kind of on
run the ball.
Yeah.
What did he say on Monday? Flex on him? Like
flex on him.
Yeah, like that's what I talked to Proctor about it. Like run blocking is a mentality, man.
Yeah.
Like we talk about the limitations of the running backs, but you can force it if you're a really good offensive line. And at a certain point, you kind of do have to look at that offensive line and be like, guys, I thought you were going to be the best in the country. Guys, I thought you wanted to win a Joe Moore Award. What's the deal? Like, I think that's where you challenge them, and I think that's where you say, look, you've got a quarterback playing at a Heisman Trophy level. What are you going to do to help him? Because we know the receivers are going to do it. There are little things that they could do better at, but I think it's the offensive line. Can they protect Ty better, and can they pave large enough running lanes that these running backs can take advantage of them? I'm at the top of my voice.
Yeah.
I'm like Kalen DeBoer a couple weeks ago, hoarse as could be, screaming about blocking and winning the line of scrimmage, because that's how you're going to win a national championship. If not, you're going to come close, and you're not going to do it.
And kind of sticking with the offense line, I should have mentioned it, but they've got, say what you will about Harold Perkins, he's a good
dudes on defense.
They've got Jack Pyburn on defense. They've got with Weeks, and they've got dudes on the defensive front. So it's going to be a big test for sure.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of bcftoys.com in their opponent adjusted defensive rankings, the best defense that Alabama's played so far this year is South Carolina. And it sure as hell looked like it, because they shut down this offense for 40 something minutes. LSU is the second best defense, only a couple spots behind South Carolina. They have them at 17th best in the country. So
not to get ahead, but where's Oklahoma in that? It's got to be pretty similar, right?
5. Yeah. Oklahoma's number 5 right now in adjusted defensive efficiency, and then don't forget about the Auburn Tigers, which are number 8. And Auburn's defense is not their problem. 100% their offense. So you're playing 3 damn good defenses over the final 3 SEC games, and on top of that, Texas A&M is also in the top 15. So.
Lurking for the SEC championship,
right? And likelihood that you're going to play them. So the toughest tests for this offense are yet to come, and I don't know if I would say they passed the test at South Carolina, but damn, right? It was
curve on the test, the grading, curve.
It was an adventure. So
told you Mike Shula was going to throw an assist in there.
Former South Carolina offensive coordinator Mike Shula.
That's right.
Former Alabama coach Mike Shula. So your toughest tests are yet to come, and I don't know if that's the message that Ryan Grubb is sending. It probably is, but that's the thing that would give me a little bit of pause in terms of what we've seen from the offense, what we've seen from Ty, because we've seen enough from this offense to have some questions about how they're going to pass protect, how they're going to run the ball, how they're going to win games if some of those plays aren't there that have been there for them this season.
Yeah, and then if you're Kane Womack as your defensive units walking into the room, what are you? Tackle the ball carrier? Is that kind of
but go get the quarterback.
Yeah.
Go get the quarterback. Please go get the quarterback. I think that's the thing he's continued to harp on is, they found a way to make takeaways and then cover up for some of their things they've struggled with. But I think they need to get to the quarterback and bring him down and create negative plays more than anything else. And there's those other things, but
I think the word he's going to use with the defense is E-Bombay.
Yeah.
The movie Black Panther, that is the word that he does use. So if you're asking yelling at the defense, the answer is probably E-Bombay.
Yeah.
And they've held true to that line so far this year.
Opportunistic. That's what they are.
We're recording this a little bit earlier than usual. College football playoffs going to be coming out. You don't have to give, but let's pre-react. What are people going to be upset about? This is going to come out
everything because it's the freaking college football playoff, and it's like it's designed to make people mad, and people get mad about being mad.
I've kind of had this mindset, and I could be completely wrong here, but is there something to be said that maybe the only 2 college football ranking shows that matter are the first and the last one? Because the first one kind of, I guess it depends on where you are, but it kind of shows you,
right?
If that makes sense. I don't.
No,
I like your sales job.
Yeah.
You should work for ESPN
because ultimately there's no such thing as precedent.
Yeah,
they're going to change how they want to think from week to week.
Like Drew Carey,
and they're going to show you what they are maybe for like 4 weeks in a row, and then they can change their mind after that. So no, I don't.
But I don't know if you guys saw it. They took off their hats and then went into the meeting at whatever PR woman or man decided to do that. I don't really understand, but
I mean, bring back the computers. I mean, I don't know. Like, there are things. The Alabama A&M debate is interesting.
Yeah.
There's like a where does Indiana fall question.
Where does Notre Dame fall?
Yeah, where does Notre Dame fall? Right. There's a lot of interesting things, and people are going to, I guarantee, 10 times at minimum on this broadcast, they're going to talk about how this year they're taking strength of schedule more into account. Lies. They're not. They can do whatever they want in any moment. Doesn't matter. They're going to change.
They're given another piece of information. Doesn't require anything of it.
Yeah. And Mike, I've been holding on to one of your thoughts and been using it. I have been crediting you, but like if you're Oregon or Georgia, like you're in you want to kind of where you want to be, right? Like,
right. Well, first of all, where I want to be is I want to be a frog, because if I had a long tongue, I could reach through Alex's screen and get that and fly. Because that's all I'm looking
I did not know where that was going.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been watching it. It's like I just want to. It's been bothering me.
But like to Alex's point, it's like you don't want to. Why would stay at home? Like get at home. Right.
That was Penn State. It's like you lose your one big game and then you just sit tight the rest of the year and you get a home playoff game. Yeah. That's going to be Oregon this year. You lose to Indiana, you sit tight, you get a home playoff game. That's more than likely going to be Georgia and Ole Miss for that matter. Because Alabama right now, because of the tiebreaker, because of their difficulty of conference opponents, they really more than likely need to lose 2 games to miss the SEC championship game.
Right.
So I don't think they're going to lose 2 more games right now in the regular season. So you're playing in the SEC championship game. And then I think in terms of what matters from the committee, it's how do they penalize the teams that play and lose their conference championship games. So that's, obviously well down the road at this point still. But yes, if you're Georgia, if you're Oregon, if you're Ole Miss, if you're Notre Dame, that's played their big games already, like you're kind of sitting tight. I think if you're Notre Dame, you're probably a little bit more nervous than the other ones. But I will say the other thing about this is people keep saying every 10-win SEC team is going to make it. I don't know if that's true. Mm-hmm. Like people like all the 2-loss SEC, like you could have 5 or 6 2-loss SEC teams. If Vandy goes and beats Tennessee the last week of the season, they could be a 2-loss SEC team. If Texas beats Georgia, Texas is probably a 2-loss SEC team. If they beat A&M, even if A&M loses to Texas, they're still a 1-loss SEC team. Like Georgia, Ole Miss, like I don't know if all those teams make it. So I don't know if just getting to 10 wins in the SEC is like this magic wand that you wave and you're in the playoffs. So I think I don't know if it has anything to do with anything, but it bothers me when people say that because I'm not sure it's entirely true. Yeah. But for Alabama, yes, I think right now your likelihood of playing in Atlanta is very, very, very high, even if you lose one of these games. I think you really need to lose 2. So it's really how the committee handles that SEC championship game, not only being left in or left out. If you do lose it, I think you're in, but how far do you fall? And does that mean going on the road in the first round is something to watch as well. So we shall see.
It's going to be interesting if the SEC matchup and the Big Ten matchup is 1 through 4, which it's looking like it probably will be, but there's still time left. But Mike, weather minute per usual, how big of coats should people have?
It's going to get cold early next week, but I don't think the cold front will be here quite in time for the game. But the good news is that the rain that was kind of iffy for this weekend looks like it's coming through on Friday night. So the game itself is looking dry. High school playoffs, maybe not quite as dry, but winter is here if you're in Alabama next week because it's going to be cold, yo.
Anything else on we're at
kiddos?
Yeah. Anything else before we close out the show? Again, LSU preview, Alabama 7-1 coming off the bye week.
Alabama plays St. John's at 11 a.m. Central Time in basketball in Madison Square Garden on Saturday. So a appetizer for some football.
Yeah, should be a fun day in Tuscaloosa, and plenty of recruits will be in town. Bunch of number 1 ranked guys, bunch of 5 stars, 5-star quarterback, bunch of other people. So continue all the coverage on that on Bama247, and Mike and Alex will be in Bryant-Denny Stadium providing full coverage leading up and after, of course, and we'll be back after the game on Saturday night. Thank you guys.